Having coached hundreds of individuals in the field of self-mastery for well over a decade now, I've noticed a very specific pattern amongst those who actually create the results they want versus those who don't. In this video, I'm going to share with you the unique way that a successful person thinks about creating results in their life that causes them to execute in a completely different way than the average person. In fact, it's so simple that when I hear someone ask this one specific question, I already know whether or not they're likely to succeed. Whenever you take on a new training, you buy a new product, or start a new relationship, begin letting go of an old habit, you're doing so because you want to create some kind of success and to solve a problem. You want to win. So if everyone wants to win, then why is it that some do while most struggle until they give up? It boils down to how you think. And when you think, you create. You are literally creating when you are thinking. And it's this truth that a successful person understands and lives by. It drives their choices. And the quality of your life is created by the quality of your choices. Life is a series of choices. Oftentimes, all you need to do is look at someone and you can recognize the overall quality of the choices they've made throughout their life. Are they in shape or overweight? Are they financially stable and abundant, or always worrying about money and where it's going to come from next? Are they often looking sad and depressed, complaining about life, or optimistic and happy? People wear their thought patterns, emotions, and choices just as they wear their clothes. It expresses in how they stand, how they move, walk, talk, and behave. It can't be separated. It's all one and the same. When someone asks me, Zach, will this work for me? Or they say, I'm concerned that this may not work for me, it tells me exactly how they think and what their level of consciousness is. It's a window into someone's mind. They've opened the door and exposed their way of thinking about life. And what they've unconsciously revealed is that they don't recognize their own innate power. They operate within a deterministic worldview and believe that life happens to them, as opposed to life events being influenced by their thoughts, feelings, and actions. In essence, they've revealed their state of disempowerment. Now, while they would have you believe that their disempowerment is the result of a long series of unfortunate events, the reality is that it's their disempowered state of being that is actually the causal agent. Granted, sometimes things do seem to happen out of nowhere without warning, but the truth is revealed through patterns. Where there is a pattern at play, you can then find the common denominator and get to the root of the issue. It leads to insight, the awareness of some new key piece of information which you were previously unconscious of. Your ability to recognize patterns in absolutely any area of life will lead you to breaking unwanted cycles of behavior, creating new and better outcomes. Now, what usually follows the question of, will this work for me, is a short story of unfortunate events, all of which seem to end the same way. They failed. It didn't work, or so they say. This is the pattern they experience. Let's be very clear here. All we're describing is that the source of the negative pattern isn't the repeated external failures. It's the pattern of repeatedly giving your power away to something that you think is outside of you. This is the very nature of disempowerment, to give your power away to someone or something else. If the source of the pattern was indeed the external event, the training program, the person or relationship, then everyone else who had interacted with that same event, training program, or person would have the exact same experience and outcome as you. The common denominator is the mindset that you had throughout those various experiences. This is the insight needed to finally reverse the pattern once and for all. Once you embody the understanding that it's your pattern of thinking and feeling that is at cause, you realize that you have been successfully creating your reality all along. So, if you've been creating your reality all along, then why was it so hard to see that? So you can then start creating your reality consciously. It's simple, really. Who wants to take ownership of being the one responsible for their own failure? Who wants to own up to being the source of their own negative experience? Most people definitely don't want to own up to this. And this is what makes most people average. Average isn't a label that defines you and your potential. It defines a way of being that is common amongst most people, but is mutable. It's not fixed or set in stone. This is why we all have heard countless rags to riches stories. People who have grown up in family and home environments which made it very challenging to form beliefs supportive of growth and success. If those beliefs weren't changeable, then no one who grew up in a so-called disadvantaged environment would be able to change their trajectory of their life. We are creators. And if up until now you haven't taken ownership of your negative creations, then it will be the emotions of guilt and shame you want to make peace with. The act of self-acceptance and forgiveness will cause you to realize that no matter how long you've been stuck in this rut of failure, you've been doing the very best you were capable of all along. It's not wrong to fall down and feel like you've lost. It's actually a natural part of living. It's the emotions of guilt and shame which make it difficult to acknowledge our own part in creating a life we're not happy with. These emotions are the foundation of the average person's mindset, and blaming others for your failures is the consequence of holding on to them. I understand. I've been there before myself, and I know how painful and demoralizing it can feel when you look back in your past and all you can see is misstep after misstep. But at a certain point, you have to ask yourself, is continuously feeling bad about myself doing me any good? Is beating myself up with guilt and shame going to create success and abundance? If you want to create differently, you've got to think differently. So what's the one thing that every single person who achieves successful results does differently? Decide to become responsible. That's literally the foundation of all success. Start to take ownership. Take ownership of the way that you think, the way that you feel, the content you consume, the food you eat, the way you interact with people. The pattern of negative experiences and so-called failures only continues to occur until you decide to make it stop. Take ownership of your creative authority and decide to create something new in your life. Decide to accept that creating a new pattern will come with new challenges, and that those challenges aren't indications of your unworthiness or incompetence, but are actually a universal part of the process of transformation for everyone. These are simply shifts in the way you perceive. And when you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change.